Good Monday morning. I sneaked back to this little chapel because I think it's kind of so great. And it had me thinking about when COVID hit and we couldn't go to church. And I was raised in church. My dad was a preacher, so I fell asleep on a pew many a night, day. I was no respecter of sleeping in church. We were just there all the time. And so it's just a way of life. And when the reality that we literally weren't going to church and really couldn't go to church at that moment in time settled in on me, boy, you don't really realize what something means to you until it's gone. And I remember telling Philly, I'm like, babe, if I can be in the doors of the church, I'm going to be in the doors of the church when it gets open, unless I'm like sick. And I've probably even gone to church sick a time or two since then because it was so important to me. But I realized there's a reason it's important, because we are the body of Christ. And when we're together doing what the body does, meeting together, it's like you got all the body together. And so you have even greater impact. And often during our worship time, when Travis is leading worship, and you hear that choir and all those voices, and you hear all those voices in that sanctuary coming together, my creative imagination, which goes on overdrive a lot of the times, just pictures this anthem of aroma going to the throne of the Father and his delight. It's like I can just see the smile on his face as we come together in corporate worship. But we're also told that we should. It says in Hebrews 10, verse 24 and 25, it says, "And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together." So if God tells us that, it means there's something in it. And it isn't always just for us. Remember, God gives me this picture of it being for him too. It brings this aroma to him. But it says, as in the habit of some, meaning some people do neglect to meet together, but encouraging one another. And all the more as you see the day, and that word day is capitalized in most translations, drawing near. So when it's capitalized, it means the coming day of the Lord. So it says, don't neglect it. Don't stay away from it. Don't avoid it. Because when you go, you're going to be encouraged. You're going to even be doing warfare battle in your worship, because worship is actual warfare. So can't you just see demons flee a sanctuary when all God's people get together to worship? And you're going to be strengthened. So why wouldn't the enemy be really strategic in keeping a lot of people from returning back to church after COVID? Because he has. A lot of us have made agreements maybe that, well, I get it home when I get there, so it's no big deal. I don't really need what it has to offer. Maybe some of us have experienced rejection at the hands of the church. Those are some people's deepest wounds, and it's heartbreaking, but it's true. But yet, God tells us this is the body that I'm inviting you into, and I know it's broken. It's why I died for it. But it does not negate what it affords you. And so I just thought, what better place to remind us that this is a haven that God's given us, which is his sanctuary. And inside of this sanctuary, as we come together, he truly does have something for us. But then I find the last part of that passage very significant. He says, and do it even more as you see the day approaching. And I know every generation has thought Jesus is coming back, but I think we would be foolish to not realize that the birth pains are increasing. I mean, you look at earthquakes alone, and we know that the closer birth pains get together, the closer it is to the time of delivery. So we need to be among God's people. So if you've stayed away since COVID, I just want to encourage you that there is something you're missing. The enemy is keeping you away from something that has deep value for your heart. So I just want to encourage you, find you a sanctuary and a body of believers to get back in deep fellowship with and see what God has for you. I have no doubt you will benefit from the gift of the body of Christ in corporate.